Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It's been more than a week since a California psychology professor named Christine Ford accused Judge Brett Kavanaugh of committing some form of sexual assault against her back in 1982. They were both high school students at the time. Ford's claim has stopped Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination in place. Washington has been consumed by the debate ever since. A number of Senate Republicans are said to be undecided on the question of Kavanaugh's guilt or innocence. They say they'd like to hear more from Christine Ford on Thursday when she's scheduled to testify in the Senate. Strikingly, though, not a single Democrat remains undecided. Every one of them plans to vote against Kavanaugh. They've made up their minds. They don't need the evidence. And now this wrinkle. Tonight there are more allegations, consistent in many ways with the allegations we have already heard. Leading Democrats are calling these new claims powerful, compelling, and highly credible. They are all but daring Republicans to question the new accusers. The victims, they say, must be believed. Here's a selection of the charges.
I saw Sarah Good with the devil! I saw Goody Allen Ford with the devil! I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil! I saw Goody Howe with the devil! I saw Goody Barrow with the devil! I saw Goody Good with the devil! I saw Goody Allen Ford with the devil!
Oh, just kidding. That's a scene from The Crucible, which you'll remember is the Arthur Miller play about the Salem witch trials. Miller wrote The Crucible back in 1953. That was a time when liberals still cared about civil liberties and due process and the right to face your accuser. Miller wrote it as an allegory about the McCarthy hearings. McCarthy hearings were a period the left deeply hated until they took power and recreated it themselves. Nowadays, you wonder if progressives still read Miller's play. And if so, are they outraged by it? Maybe not. It might seem completely reasonable to them. Mob accuses villager of witchcraft. Villager denies it because witches always deny it. Prove you're not a witch, they scream. The witch can't, proving beyond a doubt that she is, in fact, a witch. To the stake she goes. Chris Coons would understand this reasoning. Coons is a Democrat from Delaware and a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's been making the same case about Brett Kavanaugh in public recently. Watch him explain it.
It is Judge Kavanaugh who is seeking a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court and who I think now bears the burden of disproving these allegations rather than Dr. Ford and Ms. Ramirez.
So even those of you who are absolutely dead certain that Brett Kavanaugh is guilty as hell because you saw it on CNN would have to admit that this does put him in a tough spot. The rest of us assume the Constitution guarantees us the presumption of innocence when we're accused. Brett Kavanaugh no longer has that protection. It's up to him to clear his own name. He can either figure out how to prove that Christine Ford's foggy 36-year-old memories are wrong, or his daughters can grow up learning about how their dad is a sex offender. That's his choice. So what does he do next? How do you disprove an accuser who can't even tell you when or where you supposedly committed the crime? Well, the FBI, of course. Democrats are demanding that Kavanaugh call down yet another FBI investigation on himself. Yes, he has submitted to half a dozen federal background checks already, but Democrats want another. That's the only way he can show he is innocent of these charges. Various dumb people on television agree with this. They nod their heads in unison. But would that really work? Is that the purpose of FBI investigations? Joe Biden doesn't think so. Keep in mind that Biden is both an attorney and the former chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Watch this.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period.
Okay, we fooled you again. That is Joe Biden from the 1991 Clarence Thomas hearings. Biden was on the other side of the debate then, so naturally he had completely different views from the ones he holds today. What hasn't changed are the inherent limits of an FBI investigation. Democrats know that, of course, but so what? Proving or disproving a recovered memory is not the point. The point is destroying Brett Kavanaugh. It's worth saying that most Democrats in Washington don't really hate Kavanaugh personally. He's hardly an abrasive character, as you learned if you watched his interview with Martha last night. There's nothing personal about any of this. Kavanaugh stands between the Democratic Party and the power it seeks. He is in the way. He must be crushed, in this case, along with his wife and his 2 little girls. Sorry, that's the cost of winning. No omelets without some broken eggs. The problem is that outside party headquarters in D.C., people out there don't understand this. When they hear a U.S. Senator call Brett Kavanaugh a sex criminal, they believe it. Why wouldn't they believe it? Because that's the other thing that never changes, ever. Human nature. There's a mob instinct in people, a gut-level desire to worship the powerful and hurt the unpopular. It's always there, in every population, in every country, from the beginning of time until now. Wise leaders know that. Wise leaders fear that. They try to keep it contained. They never stoke the mob instinct. Once unleashed, there is no controlling where a mob winds up or who it destroys. You can tell a mob is building by the way people start talking, like this.
I think there's a compromise here, and well, hear me out on this. So Kavanaugh gets confirmed to the Supreme Court. Okay. Well, in return, we get to cut that pesky penis of his off in front of everyone.
So that's where we are. Castration. Medieval moments call for medieval remedies. And this is definitely a medieval moment.